the basics are not simple. I mean, they are, but they take time. I mean, it's the basics. You got to learn the tunes. You got to learn the basics. Like, that's going to take time. The problem is the basics. I can tell you the basics in an hour. You already know the basics. The basics are the basics. You got to know major, minor, dominant. Those are the basics. I mean, every chord is something of those three. You got to have, and you got to know about harmony and cadences and the movement of Western harmony, which is basically tonic, dominant. There you go. That's it. And maybe subdominant. Those are the three. Every classical piece, pre-20th century, every jazz piece, every folk piece, everything is either a tonic, the 5 chord, which is the dominant, or maybe the subdominant, which is the 4 or the 2, which is a preceding chord to the dominant, which could even be thought of as just a part of the dominant. I mean, so everything, every moment of every Bach piece, you could hit pause. That's either home or I'm going somewhere that's going to take me to a new home, which is the 5 chord. You might not go to the new home. Classical music is endless 5s without a 1, or transitions to different keys, but it's through some kind of 5, i.e. dominant, to some kind of 1, back and forth, basic. So how do you speak over that? You learn phrases, scales, whatever it is, licks that work, giving me the sound of the dominant, giving me the sound of the tonic. You got to learn the tunes. You got to learn the basic progressions of the tunes, of how, if you learn 50 tunes without the music and can play them in different keys, you're going to probably know 85% of all the harmonic building blocks. Basics, but it takes hours and 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 years of dedicated, private, quiet, undisturbed time. So that's where it gets weird, because you can sell, I bought them, hundreds of books about it. No one can put it into a book. It would be 2 pages of the book. Here's what you need to do. Can you, whatever, play me the C major in this position. Okay, you can't do it. Okay, now you know what you need to do. It's not all these different fingerings and exercises. And I mean, that's for later, once you can do the basics. What I find in my life experience, having done this now for almost 30 years, is like, it's impossible to sell a book about the basics, because it's not even a book. It's like 2 pages. It's just that's all there is. And the selling of the books is another industry. Sell a book of exercises but it has nothing, being around these great players, a lot of this is a long-winded way of saying, when I was around blues and rock players and there was no school, you just did what you naturally would do. You got the records, maybe a couple videos, you kind of figured out what they were doing. You traded licks with your buddies. You got together on a Friday and drank some beers and had some laughs and showed each other your new favorite riffs. And that's how jazz is. That's what it should be. I mean, you can make it some highfalutin thing, which it is. It's more sophisticated, but in the end, it's not. I mean, in the end, Wes Montgomery, that's what he was doing with his buddies. And that's what, Kenny Poole was doing with his buddies. And they were just trading licks and having some laughs and trying to do whatever they could to not be squares in the real world. And that's like totally lost. I mean, now they want to make you a square, because they want you to follow all the rules. They want you to do what's going to make your parents sleep well at night. And that's not how it works. I mean, that's part of the process that I find to be very difficult to communicate and slightly controversial, but I believe it. It's just the way it is. I mean, your parents are good parents when they're worried about you becoming a musician, because it's not going to be easy. It's not a good idea. It's a terrible idea in terms of on paper. They don't know how strong your level of desire is. They don't know what the community is going to be that's going to provide you with possible employment. They just see it as like, dude, this is like a really bad idea. Like, just do it as a hobby. So they're like, really, if they're good parents, basically, they're trying to do the best they can to have you have a relatively enjoyable life. Once they see that you're so passionate, then they have to encourage you. But then the school comes in with like, hey, let me sell you this deal. You can, pay this money and it's going to be great. And the kids are going to be educated and everything's going to be great. And the kids, they know it's BS, but they just want out and they want to do it. And the parents are freaked out and they kind of know it's BS, but they want to like just sleep better at night. So the whole thing becomes like this. And I don't want to be controversial with that. I'm not saying the teachers are bad. They want to help and good things come out of those situations. But my view has always been leave it alone, like they do blues and rock. That's what was the greatest thing for me, was because I see a lot of guys my age when jazz education was really coming on, they start with that. That's their early, and guys younger than me mostly, their earliest exposure is through academia. And it's like, well, isn't that ridiculous? That's like making skateboarding an academic subject. Like, let's study the history of the half. This semester, we're going to study Tony Hawk and, his innovation of the half pipe, and on the test, it's going to be who invented the McTwist. Why do they call it the McTwist? It's like, I mean, who invented the kickflip? We're going to talk about the history of grip tape in this semester, and next semester we're going to talk about the history of trucks and how they were, the axles of the wheel, and like we're going to, transcribe, Mark Guerrero's kickflips, and you're going to self-apply. It's like, I mean, you can turn anything into an academic subject, but how did you learn skateboarding? You went out with your friends, you bought the videos, you looked at the magazines, you copied the moves, you picked it up, and you were as good as your desire and your natural talent allowed you to be. All right, thank you so much. I'm Andy Brown. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please like it and please subscribe.